Welcome everyone. Before I start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get all our new summaries. And let's begin our film.
The story begins in a Chinese village, in a simple restaurant. A group of friends had just finished eating and decided to chat and joke with the cook. Afterwards, the father of one of them told them to go back to training and stop playing around. These three young men were named Xin, Peng, and Li, while the girl was named Mei, and she was Li's little sister. As they were training, Xin said that one day he would become a legendary martial arts master to defend the weak. But Peng and Li kept making fun of him until he became upset and felt hurt. So Mei ran after him to reconcile. Many days later, Xin and Li went to their friend Peng's house to celebrate his birthday. However, they were shocked to find everyone dead, with no one left alive. Strangely, Peng was missing without a trace. Not only that, but Xin discovered poison needles embedded in the victims' bodies. From there, Xin took the poison needles and showed them to his master. The master was startled and terrified because the only person who uses these needles is named Tian Luo. Tian is the most ruthless killer in all of China, and no one has been able to capture him or defeat him in combat. Xin wondered in amazement, not understanding why he had killed Peng's family. Unfortunately, the news of the family's death reached the village chief. He was deeply shocked because the merciless killer, Tian, had returned once again. He ordered the soldiers to spread the news everywhere and warn people to be cautious. Meanwhile, Xin and his friend Li were worried about Peng because he still hadn't shown up. So Xin began investigating his disappearance, putting up posters in the streets to search for him. At night, Xin stayed up, unable to sleep as his mind was preoccupied with thoughts. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise and noticed that some assassins were trying to finish him off. These assassins were loyal to Tian Luo and wanted to kill Xin because he had started digging into their affairs and could potentially expose them. Fortunately, Xin was skilled in martial arts and managed to defeat them with the help of his master. After the assassins fled, the master yelled at Xin, telling him that he had put his life in danger and that he must flee the village, or else the assassins would kill him. Not only that, but he also told Xin about Master Sunday. Master Sun is a martial arts expert, living in the mountains, possessing knowledge of a unique, unparalleled secret fighting technique called the baji art. However, he only trains people with kind hearts and immense determination. So Xin decided to flee the village and train under him to avenge his friend Peng against the ruthless killer Tian Luo. From there, Xin bid farewell to his master and friends and embarked on a journey through forests and mountains until he finally met Master Sunday. But Master Sun ignored him and refused to respond, so Xin knelt on one knee and waited for him in silence. Initially, Master Sun did not want to train Xin, but he kept observing him from afar, day and night. After 3 days passed, Xin remained steadfast in his place, without eating or drinking. Master Sun then recognized his strong determination and gave him his bag to carry. Naturally, Xin felt happy, as this was a sign that the master approved of him. He followed him in silence, ready to begin training and learn the secret baji art. However, Master Sun deceived him and refused to let him into the house, as he was not yet completely sure about him. Because of this, Xin tried to get closer to him more and more, to the point that he hunted a quail and cooked it for him. Master Sun ate it and was satisfied. In the end, Master Sun realized that Xin had a kind heart, because he brought him food and slept outside the house so as not to disturb him. The next day, Xin woke up and was surprised to find that the master had begun the training and asked him to train with him. Although Sun was old, he could lift very heavy stones, possibly weighing up to 90 kilograms. Xin tried to imitate him because he wanted to become as strong as him. Master Sun's goal in lifting heavy weights was to strengthen Xin's nerves so he could deliver deadly strikes and use the secret techniques of the baji art with their full power. At this time, the killer, Tian Luo, was feeling angry because Xin had disappeared from the village and his followers could not find any trace of him, so he ordered them to kill his master. Indeed, the next day, the people gathered and were shocked to find that the master had been killed. Even Mei and the village chief heard the news and felt deep sorrow. As for Xin and Sun, they completed the first part of the training, and Xin's skill level had improved dramatically. Master Sun then asked him to return to the village because he had heard there were problems there. Indeed, Xin took a break from training and went back to his village. But as soon as he entered, he was shocked to find a poster with his picture on it, and here was the disaster. The police and the people thought that Xin was the one who killed his master because the despicable Tian Luo had fabricated evidence and framed Xin for the crime. Xin tried to hide so no one would recognize him. When he arrived at the school where he had learned martial arts, he remembered the old days and felt deep sorrow for his master, who had raised him after his father's death. However, when he entered the master's office to rest, he was surprised to find poisoned needles. He then knew that Tian Luo was the one who killed him, and he felt intense anger. As Xin was leaving the village, Mei spotted him from afar and was happy that he had returned to the village. She asked him to meet her brother Li. Xin indeed listened to her, her. But as soon as he met her brother, he discovered that he had become an addict after the master's death, taking drugs to forget his sorrows. Shin felt sad and went to pay his respects to his master, promising him that he would avenge him against Tianluo. After that, he returned to Master Sunday. Then Sun told him, "You are ready to learn the secrets of the baji art because you have passed all my difficult tests." Sun explained to Shin that the baji art relies on delivering fast, focused strikes using the elbow, and also emphasizes keeping the feet firmly planted on the ground so that enemies cannot gain control in a fight. After a long period of training, one day, Shin woke up and did not find his master. Instead, he found a letter telling him, "I have taught you all the basics, and to unleash your true power, you must fight for justice and defend the weak." Shin made a vow to himself to follow Sun's will and avenge his master against Tianluo. When Shin returned to his friend Li, he was surprised to find criminals kidnapping his sister Mei. We learn here that they were owed debts by her brother, and they took her as a hostage because of that. However, the problem was that Shin couldn't save her because they threatened to kill her. He became furious at Li for the troubles he had caused and tried to restrain him to make him stop using drugs. But suddenly, 3 criminals appeared and started fighting with Shin. Fortunately, Shin knew the basics of the baji art and defeated all 3 of them easily. After they fled, a mysterious person appeared. That person was his friend Peng. At first, Shin felt happy because he had finally found him. But Peng became furious at him and said, "You despicable person, you killed my family." Peng accused Shin of killing his family because the masked man who attacked them fought exactly like Shin. Not only that, but he also had his personal book with him. Shin told him, "I could never have done that because I came to your house with Li to celebrate your birthday." But the disaster was that Li also accused Shin, believing he was the killer because the evidence at the crime scene matched him perfectly. Shin then realized that Tianluo wanted to frame him and had turned his friends against him. He resolved to clear his name and uncover the truth. Initially, Shin disguised himself and went to speak with the village chief, as he was the only one who believed in him and would trust his story. However, he was surprised to find a deadly match between a Chinese fighter and a Japanese fighter, with all the people gathered to watch. Unfortunately, the Japanese fighter won easily. Naturally, Shin became angry at him for mocking the Chinese and decided to challenge him to prove his strength. Indeed, Shin used the secrets of the baji art and his devastating strikes, knocking him unconscious in seconds. The village chief felt proud. After the fight, Shin thanked him for his hospitality and revealed his disguise to him. The chief told him, "Don't be afraid, because I raised you since you were young, and I know you could never kill your master or Peng's family." Not only that, but he gave him 30 gold coins and asked him to rest so they could talk. The chief told Shin that he was skilled in the baji art and asked him to train the village youths under his supervision for a large sum of money. But Shin respectfully refused because Master Sun had asked him to keep all the secrets and not teach the martial art to anyone, no matter what. Shin then wanted to return the money to the chief, but he asked him to keep it and consider his offer. After Shin took the gold coins, he went to pay them to the young men who had kidnapped Mei. But the despicable ones took the money and refused to release her. Shin became furious with them and beat them mercilessly. Shin used the powerful strikes of the baji art to destroy the criminals one by one until he fought his way to Mei and rescued her from the kidnapping. After that, he decided to burn the drug crates because they were corrupting and harming the village youth. The drug dealers became angry and decided to inform their big leader. Meanwhile, Shin went to Li and told him that he had freed his sister from kidnapping, but he left him tied up so he wouldn't return to drugs. Suddenly, Mei appeared and said that one of the criminals Shin had beaten had lost his life, and the police were scouring the streets. Shin was surprised because he had been using weak, non-lethal strikes. The 3 of them left the village and went to Master Sun's compound to rest there. But after a short while, Shin decided to go back to see the body of the young man who had died and find out what killed him. Of course, Mei was worried about him, but he ignored her and continued on his way. As soon as he reached the body, he noticed something strange on the skin. When he examined it, he was surprised to find a poisoned needle, and he knew that Tianluo was the one who killed him. He also noticed that the victim's fist was clenched. He opened it and found a distinctive-looking necklace. But the surprise was that this was the same necklace that the village chief had, so he discovered that he was the real Tianluo. Because of this, he told Mei and her brother Li that he would bravely confront the chief and not be afraid of him. Indeed, the next day, Shin went to meet the chief, but he overheard him and his assistant from afar and learned that he was the one responsible for spreading drugs and destroying the village's youth. He felt intense anger. At that time, Li went to meet Peng and told him, "We have found out who the real Tianluo is." Of course, Peng was angry because he still thought Shin had killed his family. But Li told him, "Shin is your dear friend, and you must support him in times of of hardship. Meanwhile, Xin finally stood before the chief and said, "I know all your secrets, and I have come to take revenge." At first, the chief played dumb and refused to confess. But when Xin presented his poison needle, he was exposed for who he really was and admitted that he was Tianluo. He had done this from the beginning because Xin's father was a bitter enemy who had ruined all his plans in the past. Indeed, the fight between them began. From the outset, Tianluo gained the upper hand due to his terrifying experience in martial arts, but Xin countered him with the secret techniques he had learned from the baji art. Not only that, but his friends Li and Pang arrived to help him. Xin felt joy because Pang had finally forgiven him. The three of them began their assault, but unfortunately, in the midst of the battle, the despicable Tianluo tried to deceive Xin with a poison needle, and Pang sacrificed his life to save his friend. Here, the three were forced to flee and tried to get Pang to a doctor as quickly as possible, but it was useless because Tianluo's poison needle was extremely destructive. Before Pang lost his life, he apologized to Xin for doubting him and told him, "I have always considered you like a brother. You must avenge me and my family." After that, he lost his life. Xin felt terrible grief, and he and Li promised themselves that they would eliminate Tianluo and his followers for their actions. After Pang's death, Qin could think of only one thing: taking revenge on Tianluo. Because of this, he returned to training in the baji art day and night without stopping until he began to discover new skills over time, and he was finally able to unleash his true power. One day, in the middle of the night, Xin woke up silently, took advantage of the fact that Li and his sister Mei were asleep, and sneaked outside to go and take his revenge on Tianluo. Xin indeed arrived at Tian's house without any of the guards noticing him. As he was spying on him, he noticed him sitting in front of a mirror, drying his face. And here, the terrifying truth was revealed. Tianluo removed his mask, revealing that he was Xin's master who had trained him since childhood. Xin was utterly astonished and couldn't believe his eyes. In the end, the master realized someone was watching him and came out to confront Xin with the truth. Naturally, Xin asked him why he had done all of this. The master then told him everything, explaining that he and Xin's father were friends who had stolen a large sum of money. But before they could spend it, Xin's father's conscience awoke, and he decided to return the money. So the master killed him and spent all those years plotting revenge against Xin because his father had ruined his plan. He also decided to kill the chief and assume his identity to gain control over his wealth. In the end, Xin realized his master was insane and began fighting him to put an end to his evil. And so, Xin fought the master who had raised him and taught him martial arts since childhood. Initially, both exchanged blows, but the master gained the upper hand due to his vast experience and knocked Xin to the ground. Here, Xin gathered his strength and stood up again. After that, he unleashed the destructive baji art with its full power. Xin began moving with incredible speed and delivered devastating blows, capable of splitting stone, until the master weakened and could no longer resist. He fell to the ground, unable to continue. Before Xin could finish him off, the master kept crying, saying he was sorry for what he had done and would surrender himself to the police. But then, he flung a poison needle at Xin, trying to deceive him. Naturally, the master rejoiced, thinking Xin was dead. However, Xin had actually blocked the needle using his personal book and resumed the battle. But this time, he completely finished off the master, knocking him unconscious until the police arrived and arrested him. Before the master went to prison, he gave Xin his secrets and told him, "You are a talented young man, and you must pass on your knowledge to all future generations." Xin then paid him respect, for although he was a deranged killer, he was the one who had taught him martial arts from the very beginning.
And that concludes today's film. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for the next summary. Goodbye.